Hey, what's up? My name is Nate, and welcome to another mini Bible lesson. For lesson 32, we're looking at the book of 2 Samuel. The story is directly connected to the narrative of 1 Samuel because it's all actually just one book. The division of the two is only due to scroll length. In lessons 30 and 31, we covered 1 Samuel, so if you haven't seen those, pause here and go check them out so you can better understand what's going on. Here's where we left off in our story. At the very end of Saul's long downward spiral, he ultimately decides to take his own life after losing in battle with the Philistines. So from here, we're going to look at 2 Samuel in 3 parts. 2 Samuel begins by describing the continued rise of King David. After Saul's death, David shows his character by lamenting the death of Israel, the very man who tried to kill David. This is followed by a season of great success, and David experiences God's blessings. The tribes of Israel come to David and ask him to unify all the tribes into one kingdom, ruled by David. David conquers Jerusalem, names it Zion, and establishes it as Israel's political capital. Then in chapter 7, David wants to build God a temple in Jerusalem. God tells David that instead, God will be building a dynasty from David. God will bring a future king to establish an eternal kingdom. And this messianic promise is further developed and explained in some of the Psalms and in the books of the prophets like Isaiah and Ezekiel. This promise from chapter 7 is also connected to God's promise to Abraham from Genesis 12. God is saying that this future kingdom is how God will bless all the nations. But in the midst of all this amazing success is when everything goes wrong for David. He makes a terrible mistake, which starts his downfall as king. David's story becomes a mirror of Saul's story, each rising up with great success before hitting the peak and starting their downfall. It's in chapter 11, from his rooftop, David sees a woman named Bathsheba bathing. David lusts and sends for her. David sleeps with her, getting her pregnant, and this new life becomes fatal for a man named Uriah. Uriah is one of David's soldiers, but perhaps more importantly, is the husband of Bathsheba. David sends for Uriah, who is out on a military campaign, and gets him drunk, and then sends him back to his commanding officer with a sealed letter. So here's what the letter says. It says, "Put Uriah out in the front where the fighting is fiercest. Then withdraw from him so he will be struck down and die." What? That's super messed up. This is David's plan to have Uriah killed so he can marry Bathsheba. It's incredible that he can be called a man after God's own heart. And it should be sobering to know that even the greats will all fall to non-godly desires. In our next lesson, we'll be picking up the story in chapter 12, where the prophet Nathan rebukes David, setting him straight. I hope this video has been helpful to you. Thanks for watching.